The great hall on Zentara Prime was filled with creatures from across the galaxy. Some walked on two legs like humans, others slithered or floated through the air. All of them were there to decide the fate of humanity. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood alone in the center of the massive room. Her dark blue uniform felt heavy on her shoulders. Around her, hundreds of alien eyes stared down from floating platforms. The air hummed with translation devices that turned every word into sounds each species could understand. High Arbiter Veltash rose from the highest platform. The tall, gray-skinned alien had ruled the Galactic Council for over 200 years. His forearms moved as he spoke, and his voice carried easily through the chamber. "We are here today to judge the humans," Veltash announced. "For 300 years they have been on trial. We gave them a chance to prove they could join the civilized galaxy. They have failed." Sarah felt her heart sink, but she kept her face calm. She had expected this, but it still hurt to hear it said out loud. "The charges are clear," Veltash continued. "The humans are too aggressive. They refuse to follow orders. They think they know better than species who have traveled the stars for thousands of years." Another alien stood up. This one looked like a giant insect with bright blue wings. "They built colonies without asking permission," it buzzed through the translator. "They mine asteroids like they own them. They act like the solar system belongs to them alone." Sarah stepped forward. "May I speak in our defense?" Veltash nodded slowly. "You may try." Sarah looked around the room. These aliens had ruled the galaxy for so long that they thought they owned it. They decided which species could travel to other stars and which ones had to stay home. They controlled trade, technology, and even what planets could be settled. "Honored members of the Council," Sarah began, "humanity has never broken any of your laws. We stayed in our solar system as you commanded. We only built colonies on worlds that had no life. We never attacked anyone or threatened any other species. But you did not ask permission," said a creature that looked like a floating jellyfish. "The Council must approve all expansion, even in your own system." "We built research stations and mining platforms," Sarah replied. "We needed resources to feed our growing population. We thought it was understood that we could use the empty worlds in our own star system." Veltash's eyes narrowed. "This is exactly the problem. Humans think. Humans assume. Humans do not follow the proper order of things. In a civilized galaxy, junior species wait for permission. They ask before they act. They show respect to their betters." Sarah felt anger rising in her chest, but she kept her voice steady. "We have contributed much to the galaxy. Our scientists have shared new technologies. Our doctors have helped cure diseases that plagued other worlds. Our engineers have designed better spaceships. Technology we did not ask for," snapped the insect-like alien. "Humans always want to change things to make them better. But we have survived for millions of years without human improvements." "The real problem," said another voice, "is that humans think they are special. They believe they should be treated as equals instead of students." Sarah looked up at the speaker. It was a tall, thin alien with silver skin and large black eyes. She had never seen this species before. "Humans are young," the silver alien continued. "They have only been in space for a few hundred years. Most species wait thousands of years before they are ready for full membership. Humans want everything now." "We have proven ourselves," Sarah said firmly. "We have followed your rules. We have shared our knowledge. We have caused no trouble for anyone. What more do you want?" Veltash stood again. All four of his arms spread wide. "We want obedience. We want respect. We want humans to understand their place in the order of things. But humans cannot do this. They are too proud, too independent, too dangerous to be allowed among the stars." The voting began immediately. One by one, the alien species announced their decision. The spider-like Vectari voted to expel humanity. The gas cloud Nethrons agreed. The crystal beings from the outer rim also voted against humans. Sarah counted 17 votes for expulsion. Only one species stayed silent: the mysterious Zephyrians, who rarely spoke in council meetings. "The vote is decided," Veltash announced. "Humanity is expelled from the Galactic Council. Furthermore, humans are forbidden from leaving their solar system. Any human ship found beyond the heliopause will be destroyed without warning." Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. This was worse than she had feared. They were not just being kicked out, they were being locked in their own system like prisoners. "You cannot do this," she said. "We have done nothing wrong." "You exist," Veltash replied coldly. "That is enough. Guards, escort the human back to her ship." As the alien guards moved toward her, Sarah heard a soft voice in her ear. It was the translator device picking up a private message. The voice was gentle and musical, unlike any of the other aliens she had heard. Do not despair, human. The Council fears what they do not understand. Perhaps isolation will prove to be humanity's greatest gift. Sarah looked around quickly, trying to spot who had sent the message. She saw a group of tall, graceful aliens with flowing robes standing in the shadows. One of them nodded slightly at her. A Zephyrian. The guards reached her and began escorting her from the chamber. As she walked between them, Sarah held her head high. She would not give these aliens the satisfaction of seeing her break down. Her ship waited at the spaceport, a small human vessel that looked primitive compared to the sleek alien craft around it. The journey back to Earth would take 3 months, even with their fastest engines. As her ship left the atmosphere of Zantara Prime, Sarah sat in the pilot's chair and composed her report to Earth. How could she tell her people that they had been not just rejected, but imprisoned? How could she explain that the galaxy considered them too dangerous to be free? The message from the Zephyrian kept echoing in her mind. Perhaps isolation will prove to be humanity's greatest gift. What did that mean? Back on Earth, President Marcus Rivera read Sarah's report in his office overlooking the rebuilt city of New Geneva. The leaders of every nation were already gathering for an emergency meeting. The news would spread quickly. Humanity was alone again. Rivera looked out the window at the bustling city below. Humans walked the streets, worked in the buildings, lived their lives without knowing that the galaxy had just told them they were not worthy of the stars. But Rivera was not discouraged. He thought about human history, about how his species had always been at their best when their backs were against the wall. They had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have destroyed other species. Each time they had come back stronger. 3 hours later, Rivera stood before the United Earth Assembly. Representatives from every nation and colony in the solar system watched as he delivered the news. My fellow humans, he began, today the Galactic Council has told us we are not fit to travel among the stars. They have locked us in our own solar system and threatened to destroy us if we try to leave. The assembly erupted in angry voices. People shouted about the unfairness of it all, about humanity's right to explore the galaxy. Rivera raised his hand for silence. When the room quieted, he smiled. They have given us the greatest gift possible, he said. They have forced us to rely on ourselves. For 300 years we have tried to prove we are good enough for them. Now we will prove we are better than them. The assembly burst into applause, and in that moment the seeds of something greater than the Galactic Council had ever imagined began to grow. 25 years had passed since the galaxy turned its back on humanity. The solar system now buzzed with activity that would amaze anyone who could see it. But the Galactic Council's sensors stopped at the edge of the solar system, and humans had learned to work in the shadows. Dr. Elena Vasquez pulled her thick coat tighter as she walked through the research station on Europa. Ice covered the moon's surface, but underneath vast oceans held secrets that humanity was just beginning to understand. Her team had been working here for 3 years on Project Prometheus, and they were close to a breakthrough. Doctor, you need to see this, called her assistant, Dr. Kim Park. The young scientist's excitement was clear in his voice. Elena hurried to the main laboratory. Banks of computers filled the room, their screens showing complex equations and energy readings. In the center of the room sat a small device that looked like a metal sphere covered in glowing blue lines. We did it, Kim said, his eyes bright with triumph. The fusion reaction is completely stable. No exotic matter needed, no dangerous radiation. It's producing 3 times more energy than anything the Council has. Elena stared at the device. For years, the Galactic Council had told humanity that their technology was primitive. They said humans would need thousands of years to develop real fusion power. But here it was, humming quietly on a simple metal table. How? She asked. Kim grinned. We stopped trying to copy their methods. We used human engineering instead. Turns out our approach to magnetic containment is completely different from theirs. They use brute force, we use precision. Elena felt a thrill of pride. This was exactly what President Rivera had predicted. When humans stopped trying to impress the Council and started being themselves, amazing things happened. Across the solar system, similar breakthroughs were happening everywhere. On Ceres, the largest asteroid in the belt, Admiral James Thompson watched as the newest ship rolled out of the construction bay. The shipyard here had been built into the asteroid itself, hidden from any outside observers. The ship was unlike anything in the Council's fleets. Where alien vessels were smooth and elegant, this one looked rough and practical. It bristled with weapons, sensors, and equipment that had been designed by human engineers who cared more about function than beauty. "She's beautiful, isn't she?" said Captain Lisa Wong, who would command the vessel. Thompson nodded. The ship represented everything humans had learned in their years of isolation. It combined Council technology they had reverse-engineered with human innovations that the aliens never would have thought of. "What are you calling her?" Thompson asked. The Defiance, Wong replied with a smile. The name was perfect. Every ship being built in the asteroid belt carried the same spirit. Humanity had been told they were not good enough for the stars. Now they were building a fleet that would prove the Council wrong. On Mars, Commander Liu Wei put his troops through their daily training exercises. The soldiers moved through the red dust with precision, their powered armor making them faster and stronger than any human in history. The Solar Defense Corps had been Liu's idea. If humanity was going to be trapped in their solar system, they would be ready to defend it. But Liu had bigger plans than just defense. "Remember," he called to his troops as they practiced with their new weapons, "we're not just training to fight alien invaders. We're training to liberate alien slaves." The soldiers understood. Intelligence reports from the few Council defectors who had made it to human space told a clear story. The galaxy was full of species who lived under Council rule not by choice but by force. Hundreds of civilizations were little better than slaves, forced to mine resources and build ships for their alien masters. Liu believed that when humanity finally broke free of their prison, they would not be alone. But first, they needed the technology to reach other star systems. That breakthrough came on Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Dr. Raj Patel had been working on the problem for a decade. The Council's faster-than-light travel relied on technology that humans barely understood. But Patel had a different idea. "We don't need to copy their technology," he explained to his team. "We need to improve it." The hybrid drive that Patel's team developed was a masterpiece of human engineering. It took the basic principles of Council FTL travel and combined them with human fusion technology and artificial gravity systems that the aliens thought were impossible. The first test flight was conducted in complete secrecy. A small probe equipped with the new drive was launched from Titan toward the edge of the solar system. It reached the heliopause in minutes instead of months, and when it emerged into interstellar space, the Council's sensors detected nothing. "We're invisible to them," Patel announced to the celebration in his laboratory. "Our ships can travel faster than theirs and they'll never see us coming." News of the breakthrough reached Earth within hours. President Rivera, now in his second term, called an emergency meeting of the Solar Council. Leaders from every major colony gathered in the rebuilt chambers beneath New Geneva. 25 years ago, they told us we were not worthy of the stars, Rivera said to the assembled leaders. Today we have technology they cannot even imagine. The question is, what do we do with it? The debate that followed lasted 3 days. Some leaders wanted to reveal humanity's advances to the Council, hoping to negotiate a new relationship. Others wanted to simply expand into space quietly, avoiding contact with alien civilizations. But the majority agreed with Rivera's proposal. It was time to reach beyond the heliopause, not to rejoin the Council, but to build something better. "We will not repeat the Council's mistakes," Rivera declared. "We will not conquer other species or force them to serve us. We will offer them something the galaxy has never seen, a choice." The first ships of the Human Liberation Fleet were already being prepared. Unlike the Council's massive vessels designed to intimidate and control, these ships were built for a different purpose. They carried medical supplies, food synthesizers, and advanced technology that could improve life on any world. But they also carried weapons. Not to conquer, but to liberate. Admiral Thompson stood in the command center on Ceres watching the final preparations. In 3 months, the first ships would leave the solar system on missions that could change the galaxy forever. "Are you sure about this, Admiral?" asked his aide, a young officer named David Chen, the son of Ambassador Sarah Chen, who had died 5 years earlier, still believing in humanity's eventual return to the stars. Thompson looked at the young man. David had his mother's determination, but he had been raised in a solar system that no longer waited for alien approval. Your mother always believed we would prove them wrong, Thompson said, but she was thinking too small. We're not going to prove them wrong. We're going to prove there's a better way. On Europa, Dr. Vasquez received the final orders for Project Prometheus. Her fusion technology would power the Liberation Fleet. Her artificial gravity systems would make long space voyages comfortable for alien refugees. Her communication networks would allow instant contact across interstellar distances. We're really doing this, she said to Dr. Park as they watched their equipment being loaded onto transport ships. Do you think we're ready? Park asked. Vasquez looked out through the laboratory's viewport at Jupiter hanging in the black sky above them. Somewhere beyond the giant planet's gravity well, alien civilizations waited for rescue they didn't even know was coming. The Council had millions of years to get ready, she said. They built an empire on fear and control. We've had 25 years, and we've built something based on hope and freedom. I like our chances. The final meeting before launch was held on Earth, in the same assembly chamber where President Rivera had first declared humanity's independence from the Council. But this time the mood was different. Instead of anger at their exile, there was excitement for their future. In 1 month, human ships will enter interstellar space for the first time in 3 centuries, Rivera announced. We go not as supplicants begging for acceptance, but as liberators offering freedom. We go not to join the galaxy as it is, but to help it become what it should be. The assembly erupted in cheers, but Rivera raised his hand for quiet. His expression was serious. The Council will not accept what we are about to do. They will fight us with everything they have. Some of us will not come home, but we go anyway because that is what humans do. We fight for what is right, even when the odds are against us. As the meeting ended and the representatives returned to their ships and stations, a message arrived from the edge of the solar system. The first scout ships had already detected Council patrol vessels beyond the heliopause. The aliens were still watching, still guarding humanity's prison. But they had no idea that their prisoners had become something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that would fight not for conquest, but for the freedom of others. The age of human expansion was about to begin. The human exploration ship Endeavour emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Captain Sophia Reyes looked at the star map on her command screen. This was humanity's first step beyond their solar prison, and her crew was making history. Sensor sweep complete, Captain, reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson from the science station. We're detecting multiple ships in the inner system. Some are moving in attack patterns, Reyes frowned. The intelligence reports had mentioned mining operations in this system, but nothing about a battle. Put it on the main screen. The view screen showed a small space station orbiting a rocky planet. Around it, several primitive-looking ships were being chased by larger, sleeker vessels. Weapons fire lit up the darkness of space as the larger ships systematically destroyed the smaller ones. Those look like Council enforcement ships, said Commander Torres, Reyes' second-in-command. The smaller vessels appear to be some kind of mining craft. Any life signs? Reyes asked. Yes, Captain. The mining ships have crews. They're sending distress calls, but I don't recognize the language. Reyes studied the tactical display. The Council ships were clearly winning. In a few minutes, all the mining vessels would be destroyed. She thought about her orders. Observe and gather intelligence, but avoid contact with Council forces. Then she thought about the words President Rivera had spoken at the launch ceremony. We go not as conquerors, but as liberators. Red alert, she announced. All hands to battle stations. Weapons online. Captain, Torres said quietly, our orders were to avoid engagement. Our orders were to help any being seeking freedom from Council oppression, Reyes replied. Those ships down there are crying for help. That's good enough for me. The Endeavour descended toward the battle zone at full speed. The ship's hybrid drive system allowed it to accelerate far faster than anything in the Council fleet, and its stealth technology kept it invisible until it was almost on top of the enemy vessels. Target the Council ship's weapon systems, Reyes ordered. Disable, don't destroy. I want them alive to carry a message back to their masters. The Endeavour's weapons were unlike anything the Council had seen before. Instead of the energy beams and plasma torpedoes that most galactic civilizations used, human ships carried kinetic projectiles that could punch through any known shield. The Council enforcement ships found their weapons disabled before they even knew they were under attack. This is Captain Sophia Reyes of the human vessel Endeavour. She broadcast on all frequencies. We are not affiliated with the Galactic Council. We offer sanctuary to any being seeking freedom from oppression. The response was immediate. The Council ships, their weapons destroyed and their engines damaged, began retreating toward the edge of the system. But the mining vessels moved closer to the Endeavor, their distress calls turning into what sounded like celebrations. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the lead mining ship," Jackson reported. "The translation system is working on it now." A few moments later, a voice came through the speakers. It was high-pitched and seemed to be speaking very quickly, but the emotion was unmistakable: relief and gratitude. "This is Mining Supervisor Shektal of the Kalahari. Are you really humans? The Council told us you were too dangerous to leave your system. They said you would destroy any species you encountered." Reyes smiled. "We're humans, all right. And the only thing we want to destroy is the Council's hold on the galaxy. Are you and your people safe?" "We are now, thanks to you. But the Council will send more ships. They always do when the mining quotas are not met." "Then maybe it's time to stop mining for them," Reyes suggested. "How many of your people are in this system?" 3,000 on the station, another 500 in the mining ships. "But Captain, you don't understand. If we stop mining, the Council will crack our home planet. They have done it before to other species who disobeyed." Reyes felt anger burning in her chest. The reports from Council defectors had mentioned planet crackers, weapons that could literally shatter entire worlds. But hearing about their casual use as a threat made it real in a way that intelligence briefings could not. "What if I told you that we could protect your homeworld?" she asked. "What if you didn't have to choose between slavery and extinction?" There was a long pause before Shektal replied. "Then I would say you are offering us something that has not existed in this galaxy for 1,000 years. Hope." Over the next 3 days, the Endeavor remained in the Kepler 442 system, while Reyes and her crew learned about the Kalahari. They were a reptilian species, barely a meter tall, with quick minds and nimble fingers that made them excellent miners and engineers. For over a millennium, they had been forced to strip their own worlds of resources to feed the Council's endless hunger for raw materials. "We are not the only ones," Shektal explained during a meeting aboard the Endeavor. The small alien looked almost comical sitting in a chair designed for humans, but his words were deadly serious. "The Vorthak are forced to drain their water worlds for Council agriculture. The Sylvani are enslaved to Power Council technology with their energy manipulation abilities. The Titan-class beings are used as living ships." Commander Torres, who was taking notes, looked up. "How many species are under Council control?" "Hundreds," Shektal replied. "Perhaps thousands. The Council has been conquering and enslaving for millions of years. Most species never even try to resist anymore." "But some do?" Reyes asked. Shektal's large eyes brightened. "There are always those who remember freedom. They pass down stories of what life was like before the Council came. They dream of liberation, but dreams are all they have been until now." Reyes made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "How quickly can you spread the word? Not just to your people, but to other enslaved species. The mining networks extend across dozens of systems. News travels quickly among slaves. It is often the only hope we have." "Then spread this message," Reyes said. "Tell them that the humans have returned to the stars. Tell them we offer protection, technology, and most importantly, freedom. Give them coordinates where they can meet our ships. And if the Council tries to stop them," Reyes's smile was cold. "Let them try." The word spread faster than anyone expected. Within weeks of the Endeavor's return to human space, ships began appearing at the designated rendezvous points. Not just Kalahari vessels, but craft from dozens of different species. Admiral Thompson, now commanding the growing human liberation fleet from his flagship Prometheus, watched in amazement as refugee ships arrived daily. Each group brought not just people seeking freedom, but knowledge about Council operations, weaknesses, and the growing unrest among subjugated species throughout the galaxy. The Vorthak were aquatic beings whose ships looked like giant bubbles filled with water. Their leaders explained how the Council had been draining their ocean worlds for agricultural use on Council planets, leaving entire civilizations to die of thirst on their own. Homeworlds, the Sylvani were even stranger, beings of pure energy who had been forced to inhabit mechanical bodies to serve as power sources for Council technology. When freed from their restraints, they could manipulate electromagnetic fields in ways that human scientists found fascinating. But it was the arrival of the Titan-class beings that truly shocked the humans. These creatures were massive, some of them larger than human battleships. For thousands of years, the Council had enslaved them, forcing them to serve as living transport vessels. Their natural abilities to survive in space and travel between star systems made them perfect for the job. But the cost to their own culture and freedom had been enormous. "We remember the old songs," explained Thakmor, one of the Titan leaders who had escaped Council control. "Before the Council came, we traveled the stars as we chose, exploring and learning. Now we carry their cargo and their soldiers to oppress other worlds." "How many of your people are still enslaved?" Admiral Thompson asked. "Thousands. But if you can truly offer us protection, we will find ways to bring more of our kind to freedom." As the Liberation Fleet grew, so did its capabilities. The Kalahari proved to be master engineers, improving human ship designs with innovations that no Council engineer had ever considered. The Vorthak's knowledge of aquatic warfare opened up new tactical possibilities. The Sylvani's energy manipulation abilities made it possible to disable enemy ships without destroying them. But it was the intelligence they provided that proved most valuable. The freed species knew the locations of Council military bases, the shipping routes used to transport enslaved populations, and most importantly, the communication networks that held the Council empire together. Dr. Vasquez, now serving as Chief Science Officer for the Liberation Fleet, worked closely with alien scientists to develop new technologies. The combination of human innovation with alien knowledge was producing results that amazed everyone involved. "We've just completed the first successful test of Sylvani-enhanced shields," she reported to Admiral Thompson. "The energy manipulation makes our ships nearly immune to Council weapons." "And the new FTL drives?" Thompson asked. "The Titan-class being's natural space-folding ability has allowed us to improve our travel speed by 300%. We can now cross the galaxy faster than Council ships can cross a single sector." But not all the news was good. Intelligence reports indicated that the Council the Battle of Rigel Crossroads began at dawn on the mining world of Vectara. Admiral Thompson watched from the bridge of the Prometheus as 200 Council ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. The sight was meant to be overwhelming, an unstoppable force that would crush any resistance. The Council fleet commander probably expected to find a dozen primitive human ships and some mining vessels. Instead, he faced 400 ships from the human Liberation Fleet, crewed by dozens of freed species and equipped with technology the Council had never seen before. "This is High Admiral Zek Thul of the Council Enforcement Fleet," came the transmission. "Surrender immediately or be destroyed. This is your only warning." Thompson activated the fleet communication system. "This is Admiral James Thompson of the Human Liberation Fleet. We offer you the same choice we offer all beings: freedom or defeat. Leave this system now and no harm will come to you." The Council's response was immediate. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes filled space as the massive alien fleet opened fire. But the Liberation ships seemed to dance between the attacks, their improved engines and Titan-enhanced FTL drives allowing them to move in ways that confused and frustrated the Council gunners. Captain Wong, commanding the destroyer squadron, led her ships in a flanking maneuver that took advantage of the Kalahari navigation improvements. "Target their command ship," she ordered. "Let's cut off the head of this snake." The battle lasted 3 days. Council ships found their weapons useless against Sylvani-enhanced shields, while human kinetic weapons punched through Council defenses like they were made of paper. Vorthak-designed tactics allowed Liberation ships to strike from unexpected angles, while Titan-class beings used their natural space-folding abilities to appear behind enemy lines. By the end of the 3rd day, the entire Council fleet was either destroyed or captured. Not a single ship escaped to report back to their masters. But Admiral Thompson knew this was only the beginning. He stood before the assembled fleet commanders, human and alien faces united in grim determination. "Today we won a battle," he announced. "But the war is just starting. The Council has thousands of ships and millions of years of experience. They won't underestimate us again." He was right. Back on Zentara Prime, High Arbiter Veltash received the news of the fleet's destruction with cold fury. The Council chambers erupted in angry voices as alien leaders demanded action. "The humans must be stopped," declared the insect-like Ambassador Zixtar. "They are spreading rebellion throughout our territories. More than that, added the floating jellyfish creature Nevolus. They are teaching our slaves to fight back. 3 more systems have declared independence since the battle at Rigel. Veltash raised all 4 arms for silence. The time for half measures is over. Activate the planet crackers. We will make examples of the rebellious worlds. A shocked silence filled the chamber. Planet crackers had only been used a few times in Council history, and always as a last resort. The weapons could literally shatter entire worlds, killing every living thing on the surface. Surely there is another way, protested Ambassador Kolseth of the Hegemony. Planet cracking will make us look like monsters. We are not here to be loved, Veltash replied coldly. We are here to maintain order. Sometimes order requires terrible choices. The first target was Kalhari Prime, homeworld of the species that had started the rebellion. The massive planet cracker ship arrived in the system, its single weapon capable of destroying worlds charging slowly toward full power. But something unprecedented happened. As the weapon reached critical charge, it simply stopped working. The Sylvani refugees in the Liberation Fleet had learned to interfere with the device's energy matrix, while human engineers had developed countermeasures based on the same quantum principles that powered their fusion reactors. Impossible, whispered the planet cracker's captain as his weapons readings went dead. Nothing can stop a planet cracker. The Liberation Fleet that emerged from FTL around Kalhari Prime proved him wrong. Led by the Prometheus, dozens of ships began systematically disabling the massive weapon platform, while Kalhari defense forces evacuated the planet's population to hidden shelters. This is Admiral Thompson, came the broadcast to the planet cracker. Your weapon is useless now. Surrender your ship and we guarantee safe passage for your crew. The Council captain's response was to activate the ship's self-destruct system rather than face the humiliation of surrender. News of the planet crackers. Failure spread across the galaxy faster than light. For the first time in millennia, Council subject worlds began to believe that their masters could be defeated. The war that followed transformed the galactic landscape. Human-led liberation forces used tactics that merged human military history with the unique abilities of their alien allies. The Kalhari proved to be master saboteurs, infiltrating Council infrastructure to disable weapons and communication systems. The Vorthak launched devastating aquatic assaults on water-rich Council worlds. The Sylvani, finally free to use their energy manipulation abilities without restraint, disabled entire Council fleets with electromagnetic pulses. Captain Reyes, now commanding a mixed squadron of human and alien ships, led the liberation of the mining world Keftar. The battle was typical of the new kind of warfare spreading across the galaxy. Remember, she told her crews before the attack, we're not here to conquer these people. We're here to free them. Target only Council military assets. The attack began with Sylvani ships disabling the orbital defense platforms, while Kalhari engineers inserted viruses into the planet's communication networks. Human kinetic weapons destroyed Council barracks and military installations while carefully avoiding civilian areas. But it was the response of the planet's enslaved population that truly showed how the war was changing. Instead of cowering in their homes, workers across the planet began sabotaging Council equipment. Miners collapsed tunnels to block military movements. Factory workers disabled weapons production. Farmers poisoned food supplies meant for Council troops. The slaves are fighting back, reported Commander Torres from the planet's surface. Everywhere we land, the local population is already in rebellion. Similar scenes played out across hundreds of worlds. Species that had been enslaved for thousands of years were remembering what freedom meant and fighting for it with desperate courage. But the Council adapted too. They began using scorched earth tactics, destroying entire civilizations rather than allowing them to be liberated. They recruited mercenary forces from the few species that still supported their rule. Most dangerously, they began developing new weapons specifically designed to counter human technology. The turning point came at the Battle of Nexus Station, the massive space platform that served as the Council's primary military headquarters. The station was defended by over 1,000 ships and protected by energy shields that had never been breached. Admiral Thompson led the assault personally, commanding a fleet that represented every freed species in the galaxy. As the liberation forces approached the station, they faced a weapon that no one had expected. A massive gravitational disruptor that could tear ships apart at the molecular level. "Admiral, we're losing ships," reported Captain Wong from her position on the fleet's flank. "The gravitational weapon is ripping apart our hulls." Thompson studied the tactical display. They were taking heavy casualties and the station's defenses seemed impenetrable. But then he noticed something. The Titan-class beings in his fleet were unaffected by the gravitational weapon. "Thackmore," he called to the Titan squadron leader. "Can your people get close enough to disable that weapon?" The massive being's response came through the ship's communication system. "We can try, Admiral. Our natural resistance to gravitational effects should protect us." What followed was one of the most incredible sights in galactic history. The Titan-class beings, some of them larger than human battleships, folded space around themselves and appeared directly next to the station's gravitational disruptor. Using their natural abilities, they began tearing the weapon apart with their bare hands. With the station's primary weapon disabled, the Liberation Fleet pressed forward. Human kinetic weapons began punching holes in the station's shields, while Sylvani energy manipulation attacks disabled power systems throughout the massive structure. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, Nexus Station was in Liberation hands, and with it, the Council's ability to coordinate their military response across the galaxy. But the real breakthrough came when Council military units began surrendering without fighting. At the Battle of Veltana, an entire Council fleet switched sides when their commander announced that he could no longer serve an empire that destroyed worlds to maintain power. "I became a soldier to protect civilization," announced Admiral Kethvar as his ships joined the Liberation Fleet. "The Council has become the very thing we once fought against." More defections followed. Species that had served the Council for millennia began questioning whether their ancient empire was worth preserving. Even some of the founding Council races started to waver in their support. The war reached its climax when Liberation forces reached the outskirts of the Zentara system. The final battle would be 5 years after the fall of the Galactic Council. The galaxy was transformed beyond recognition. Admiral Thompson stood on the observation deck of the Terra's Promise, watching as ships from hundreds of different species moved through space in peaceful formation. The sight still amazed him even after all this time. "Admiral," called his aide Lieutenant Shektal, the son of the Kalhari leader who had first welcomed humanity's help. "The delegates are arriving for the anniversary celebration." Thompson nodded but continued watching the ships outside. Each vessel represented a species that had chosen to join the Terran Democratic Alliance freely, not because they were forced or threatened, but because they believed in the principles that humanity had brought to the stars. The Alliance now spanned over 300 star systems, but unlike the old Council, membership was voluntary and governance was distributed. Each member species maintained complete control over their own worlds while contributing to the collective defense and prosperity of all. On Earth, President Rivera prepared for what would be his final major speech as leader of humanity. The rebuilt assembly chamber was packed with representatives from across the galaxy, many of them former Council slaves who now served as equals in the Alliance government. 5 years ago, Rivera began, we stood in these same chambers and declared that we would build something better than what the galaxy had known. Today we celebrate not just our victory over the Council, but our success in creating a new kind of civilization. The applause that followed came from voices that spoke dozens of different languages, but all carried the same message: gratitude for the freedom that humanity had brought to the stars. Dr. Vasquez, now Director of Alliance Sciences, presented her annual report on the technological breakthroughs that had been achieved through cooperation between hundreds of species. The advances were staggering. Medical treatments that could cure diseases that had plagued entire civilizations, terraforming techniques that could turn dead worlds into gardens, and even the beginnings of technologies that might one day allow travel between galaxies. When species work together as equals instead of masters and slaves, she explained, the results are beyond anything any single civilization could achieve alone. But perhaps the most remarkable transformation had occurred on the former Council worlds themselves. Zentara Prime, once the seat of galactic oppression, had become a center of learning where former enemies worked together to ensure that such tyranny could never rise again. The Council's vast archives, now open to all, revealed the true history of the galaxy. Hidden records showed evidence of dozens of previous species who had tried to challenge the Council's authority, over millions of years. All of them had been completely eliminated, their worlds destroyed, their very existence erased from official records. We were not the first to dream of freedom, explained Professor Velneth, a former council historian who now taught at the Zentara Institute for Galactic Studies. But we were the first to have allies who refused to abandon us. The former High Arbiter Veltash had been among the last council leaders to surrender. He now lived in exile on a remote world, writing memoirs that few bothered to read. His final transmission before surrender had been broadcast across the galaxy. The humans have won not because they were stronger, but because they offered something we never could: hope. Not all former council species chose to join the Alliance. Some retreated to distant worlds, maintaining their old ways in isolation. Others simply disappeared beyond the galaxy's edge, perhaps seeking to start over in other stellar formations. The Alliance let them go. Unlike the Council, they did not force anyone to accept their way of life, but most chose integration. The hegemony worlds, once proud enforcers of Council rule, became centers of art and culture where former enemies learned to appreciate each other's differences. The Vectari spider people, who had been master shipbuilders under the Council, now created vessels that were both beautiful and functional, combining aesthetic vision with practical engineering. Captain Sophia Reyes, now promoted to admiral and commanding the Alliance's exploration fleets, led the missions that made contact with civilizations beyond the former Council territory. Each new species they encountered was offered the same choice that humanity had first given to the Kalahari: join freely as equals, or remain independent with friendship and trade agreements. We've made contact with 47 new civilizations this year, she reported to the Alliance Assembly. 31 have chosen to join us. The others have established diplomatic relations and trade partnerships. Not a single species has chosen hostility. The transformation was visible in everyday life across Alliance space. On the mining worlds where Kalahari had once labored as slaves, mixed crews of humans, aliens, and automated systems worked together to extract resources that benefited everyone. The water worlds of the Vorthak, once drained to feed Council agriculture, were being restored to their former beauty while still producing food for the galaxy. Perhaps most remarkably, the Silvani energy beings had established the galaxy's first truly free communication network. Using their natural ability to manipulate electromagnetic fields, they created an instantaneous information system that connected every Alliance world. News, ideas, and culture flowed freely across thousands of light years. The Titan-class beings had become the Alliance's most valuable partners in exploration and diplomacy. Their natural ability to survive in space and travel between star systems without ships made them perfect ambassadors to distant civilizations. More importantly, their ancient memories held knowledge about the galaxy that even the Council had forgotten. We remember the time before the Council, explained Thakmor during a gathering of Alliance leaders. There were other great civilizations then, species that chose cooperation over conquest. The Council destroyed them all, but their legacy lives on in the Alliance. Commander Liu Wei, now General Liu Wei and head of Alliance Military Command, had transformed the old Solar Defense Corps into something unprecedented, a military force dedicated to defense and liberation rather than conquest. Alliance soldiers trained not just in combat, but in diplomacy, engineering, and cultural sensitivity. We fight only when we must, he explained to new recruits from dozens of different species. Our true mission is to ensure that every being in the galaxy has the right to choose their own destiny. The anniversary celebration reached its climax when a special guest arrived on Earth. The Zephyrian consul Kiara, who had sent that cryptic message to Ambassador Chen so many years ago, finally revealed why her people had remained silent during humanity's expulsion from the Council. Our ancient prophecies spoke of the exiled children, who would return as liberators, she explained, to the assembled delegates. We have waited 50,000 years for you to find your way to the stars. Today, we are proud to join the Alliance as equals. The Zephyrians brought with them knowledge that expanded the Alliance's understanding of the galaxy's true history. They revealed the locations of ruins left by previous free civilizations, technology caches hidden from the Council, and most importantly, evidence that there were other galaxies where freedom had survived. As the celebration continued, President Rivera made his way to a quiet balcony overlooking the rebuilt city of New Geneva. The lights of the city sparkled below, while overhead, ships from across the galaxy moved in peaceful formation. "Quite a view," said a voice behind him. Rivera turned to see Admiral Thompson approaching. The old soldier looked tired but satisfied. "Hard to believe it all started here," Rivera said. "One speech in an assembly chamber, and now look what we've built." Thompson joined him at the railing. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if the Council had accepted us all those years ago?" Rivera considered the question. "We probably would have become just another subjugated species, grateful for whatever scraps of freedom they allowed us. Instead, they forced us to become something better, something the galaxy had never seen before," Thompson agreed. As they watched, a new ship entered Earth's orbit. It was sleek and beautiful, clearly of alien design but incorporating human engineering principles. The ship carried a delegation from the recently contacted Crystalline Collective, silicon-based beings from the galaxy's outer rim who had chosen to join the Alliance after learning about their principles. 47 new species this year, Rivera mused. And each one brings new ideas, new perspectives, new possibilities. "The Council ruled through fear," Thompson observed. "We're building something based on hope. Which do you think is stronger?" Rivera smiled. "I think we already know the answer to that." The next morning brought news that would shape the Alliance's future. Dr. Vasquez's research teams, working with Titan-class beings and Zephyrian scholars, had achieved a breakthrough that the old Council had thought impossible. They had detected signals from civilizations in neighboring galaxies. The technology exists to reach them, Vasquez explained to an emergency session of the Alliance Council. But the journey would take decades even with our fastest ships. Thank you for watching and comment for next part.